lived experience really, hits home and actually is a positive thing. And I think for me, I've never shared my lived experience, but that's what's drove me forward with everything that I've done with my organisation. But sharing it is very powerful. I think the needs are so big. Some families are facing so many difficulties that there needs to be like one person, like Joe was saying, you're passed from pillar to post and person to person, and you're expected to share your stories with that new person every time. And that's really difficult for young people. Any young adult, any adult, it's very difficult to share your story with somebody new all the time.
My name is Jasmine. I'm a founder of Women with Wings, which is a group that supports BEM women to improve their lives and their family lives. I'm a living experience lady. A lot lack of women services out there that they can go and get some help. So I have to find a way to signposting them. When it come back to my living experience, about 8 months ago, I end up in a situation that I need support. And I quickly, to my knowledge that I know, I quickly ran to the police, and it was waste of my time. I didn't get any help, and it really put me down to the situation that I say, this is it, I have to live in this situation. But deep down, I know that I need help. And that's come to the bigger ask is for this organization to know exactly to support individual according to their situation. When they come, listen to them and then know where I should start supporting them. The next ask is to invest more in these women's services, especially to the BEM community. We've got less people in the BEM community that they can do this work. And with the BEM women, they are more likely to open up with the other people. And this is not because of anything, it's just because the way they've been raised is like you have to keep things by yourself. You have to sort it out by yourself. Nobody outside. So for them to open up is quite challenging. But then if you don't know all these, they will say, we are fine. But if you know where they're coming from, you know exactly they are not fine. There's a lot and they are going through hell.
Hi, I'm Samara. I describe myself as a Mancunian. That's quite important as an identity marker. But being part of my heritage and how I understand my lived experience, just to say that I've not had direct contact with a lot of the services that this consultation is looking at, but I think that my lived experience of having a disability whereby I am seen as different and the way that I see the world is different. I have a fluctuating visual impairment and other disabilities that affect mobility, sensory processing issues. One of the things that I'd draw your attention to is issues around accessibility, and accessibility is something that everybody needs. So whether that's structural accessibility, the way that something is structured, whether that's a website or the way that a physical space is being planned out, or the content of something, how accessible is that, how inclusive is that. And the other barrier I think is really important to think about is trust. One of the things that I'd ask you to think about is, how do people like me respond to those sorts of confidences and things? Because for me to say to somebody who discloses their personal experience, sorry, I can't help you, well, that's not the sort of person that I want to be. I want to be able to support them. And I'd say that it's important to include that when services are being recommissioned, to build in a certain level of flexibility whereby, say after 6 months, you have the opportunity to think, well, is this really working, or is this something that we can change?
Some points came up about language that was used when reporting assault. So there's words like rape, assault, abuse, disabled, victim are quite loaded and quite difficult to say out loud sometimes. And also a lot of people look at those words and those situations as being very taboo and, either kind of shame with bringing those subjects up or kind of not wanting to cause offence. Methods of reporting, being on the phone is not always the best way to do it. People aren't always able to verbalise what happened or what's going on. So a text or email or some kind of code would be kind of preferred way to report. Our big ask is around education, especially kind of sex education and more importantly, relationship education in schools. It's just totally lacking.
Therapists who work with clients who have experienced trauma, it should be mandatory that they have completed trauma-informed therapy. You just end up going round in circles otherwise. Plastering over the cracks, dealing with surface difficulties without working with the underlying issues doesn't solve any problems. Medication is often prescribed initially prior to any interactive support. Often it can feel like there is a power hierarchy between the professional and the person accessing the services. There needs to be more inclusion of experts by lived experience in the processes and structures of service models. They need to be included in the key business areas of service, be included in business making decisions, and be in attendance at senior meetings.
In general, homelessness services are designed around visible homelessness, not hidden. Numbers of hidden homelessness are greatly unreported. For example, women who are sleeping rough have to hide themselves off the main streets because they are often targeted and become victims of violent attack and sexual abuse, or coerced into sex against their will to have a roof over their head. Women face many challenges in accessing housing support. Women are terrified to go to emergency support for fear of being misunderstood, not believed, abused, or having their children removed. Safe and secure accommodation for women is very important for me because I'm a member of the Women Homelessness Involvement Group. We are lobbying for women-only accommodation because from our work with women and frontline services, we see and hear every day that homelessness experience for women greatly differ from men. And this is not always taken into account in the design and delivery of the homelessness services. Women need this safe space. Women living in fear who have fled dangerous situation can end up in crisis accommodation, which is supposed to be safe and women only, but ended up becoming mixed, and further abuse and dangerous situations are perpetuated.
Domestic and intimate partner abuse is experienced differently by various groups of women and girls. It may be a sibling or a boyfriend for a young woman, often informed by easy access pornography. It may be a son or a grandson or a very long-term partner for an older woman. It may be a carer for a woman with disability or another woman for a lesbian. In some cultures, it may be a mother-in-law or indeed the whole family. Abuse may be compounded by racism and insecure immigration status in any of those contexts. Coercive control and the exact nature of abuse takes many forms. In order for services for women and girls to be effective, they need to be informed by the women and girls who might seek to use them. They need to recognise themselves in that service, which uses the correct terminology and spoken language appropriate to their specific needs. Women and girls should never feel embarrassed or ashamed of their context or culture, nor have to explain or justify when seeking help and support. Approachable services, designed and run by and for the specific group of women, will be both better used and more effective.